Isn't it a given that a cultural hero supports and assists the members of its own culture? When was the last time a cultural hero prioritized the needs of another culture over their own? What if I told you guys that not long ago, a man cemented his name in a culture's history as well as in the hearts of its members without even being a part of that culture? These days, it's so hard to grasp the idea that a man would volunteer himself and sacrifice his life for the sake of a culture he can even identify with. Which is exactly why I want to introduce you guys to a German Catholic man who risked his beloved reputation, precious life, and fortune businesses, all for the sake of saving Jewish lives at the hands of the Nazis. Today I'll be informing you guys about the life of Oskar Schindler by first discussing his background information and his initial exposure to enslaved Jews. Secondly, I'll be discussing his contributions to the Jews in the Holocaust. And lastly, I will be discussing his life after the war ended. Oskar Schindler was born to a German Catholic middle class family in what is now known as the Czech Republic. The source of Yad Vashem explains that Oskar Schindler, along with many other teenagers in his community, were kind of sucked in to joining a Nazi affiliated group. And so imagine risking your life for the sake of a culture that you were pretty much raised to hate. Schindler went on to expand his businesses and employ at least 256 men throughout the first 3 months of his career, including 7 Jews. This was when he began to understand the Jewish narrative, understand the Jewish story, and really just witness how they were living life under the Nazi rulings. Finally, his businesses made their presence felt across all of Europe, and Nazis wanted to team up with Schindler. This would increase the trust between both of them as the Nazis now made Schindler's business their ultimate source for the war effort. And so this trust, if it was broken for any specific reason that Schindler or risk that Schindler would take, it would not only result in Schindler's career being ruined, but most likely his life as well. And so Schindler at this point had pretty much everything the typical European man dreamed of having. He had the girls, the reputation, and the money. And so he was willing to risk all of this for the sake of even saving one more Jewish life. Oskar Schindler continued to essentially acquire more Jews from the concentration camps since his company was intertwined with the and connected with the Nazi regimes. Therefore, he had the right to pretty much claim any Jews from the concentration camps whenever he wanted. And what he would do is just grant them freedom, eventually, maybe a week or two after he acquired them. And specifically, what he would do is after he found out certain Jews were going to be deployed to severe concentration camps such as Auschwitz, he would take them in and grant them freedom as well. And so eventually, the encyclopedia.com explains that eventually the cops got onto his case. They figured out they were very suspicious of what Schindler was doing, as encyclopedia.com explains that he was the only businessman to demand so many Jews work for him. And so, even though he had no charges, they arrested him 3 times, and he still continued to get Jews and save their lives after this. Schindler, with the rising of the ghetto, of the Krakow ghetto invasion of March 1943, he took all of the Jews in from the ghetto and brought them to his factory. He hid them there from the Nazis while providing them with food, water, and blankets, giving them the best treatment they've received in a very long time. And although Schindler's achievements are incredible, he still was not rewarded for them on this world, as after the war he suffered a pretty tough life. Schindler was given many death threats throughout all of Germany. He he was on the support of Jewish organizational money. He had no other money, as his companies were being boycotted and on a major decline. Other than that, Schindler wanted to move to America, where his celebrations where his accomplishments would finally be celebrated. However, since biography.com explains that since he was a part of the Nazi movement, he was not eligible to live there, and so he had to come back to Germany and tried to find economic independence but couldn't because no one liked him, and no one wanted to support him. And so if he went from essentially managing economic households to living off of Jewish charity. And so even though this is how the end of his life turned out, we must not forget the in numerous amount of things Schindler accomplished. Lastly, anytime you go to a supermarket and you see escalators, for example, that have the name Schindler, don't remember him and his name for that company and its worth. Remember from the efforts he made for Jews, and remember that even though he did not lose it all, just like he didn't forget any Jew, no Jew today forgets about him, as his courage and zealousness is engraved in the bones of every Jew.